Okay, let's see if we have it. Okay. Bez Hashem, today's daf is daf Chaf Aleph. I just want to say one thing that I went to sleep yesterday with a question from yesterday's daf, and I'm going to highlight it. I highlighted in blue over here. This is from daf Chaf Amud Aleph. It says, "Mi she'ein loy boishes ponim." If a person has no busha, right? You see it there. If he has no guilt feelings of what he does, biyadua, you should know, and it's known, shloy amdu avoisav al har Sinai, that his parents never stood by Har Sinai, by the revelation. So I was wondering about that because why do you how do you know for sure that his parents were not by Har Sinai when it's very possible that he has a brother who doesn't have this kind of guilt feelings, or his brother, he has a family that's all good. He's just the one that's a narcissistic person, and he has no boishes upon him. So I thought about this when I went to sleep, and I woke up with the answer. The answer is because every morning you make a bracha, a baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo yosani goy. So Hashem didn't make you a goy. So the question is, why do you have to make that bracha every single day? You should make it once in your lifetime. That's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the answer is that when you go to sleep at night, if you don't go to sleep properly, then your neshama goes up and sort of attaches itself with the neshama, the souls of goyim. So when it comes back down, your thought process is goyish. So when you say the bracha shelo yasani goy, you're sort of shedding that attachment that the goyish soul attached to your soul. But if you see somebody who doesn't have boishes panim, you should know that he might be looking Jewish. He might be in the body of a Jew, and everything about him is Jewish. But if he has no guilt feelings, you should know that his avoisav, his source of where he comes from, the neshama that he has for that day, wasn't by Har Sinai. He's attached to a goyish neshama that he still didn't shed. That was my thought about that. I don't know.
In the
Okay.
wartime, in the wartime, the Jewish people was thinking, why didn't you make a goy?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to make the buch.
That's right. There was an andere Masechta. That was an
Yeah.
andere time. Yeah. Okay. The Heilige Mishnah begins the third parak. Till now, here we're going to discuss something interesting, which is that sometimes you could actually say the entire neder. Uh, I make a neder, exactly the words of a neder, but because your heart is not into it, it doesn't count. We know that you didn't mean it. In order to effectuate a neder, not only the words have to be right, but your heart has to be into it. And here are four examples that the Mishnah is going to give where your heart is not into it. Abba Nedarim Hitira Chachamim. There are four Nedarim that the Chachamim say that you don't even have to go to a rabbi to undo the neder. So Nidre's reason, Zeruzin, is a neder that you make to pressure somebody. And how do you make a neder to pressure somebody? We'll discuss that. Unidre Havai, if you make a neder for exaggeration. Benidre Shagagois, a neder of mistake. Benidre Anosin, a neder that you were forced, that was forced. We're going to learn what these all mean. But be that as it may, this Mishnah is going to explain the first of the four examples of where you make a neder, the words of a neder, and it doesn't count. Nidre Zeruzin Ketzat. How is it possible to make a neder of trying to pressure somebody? That's what zeruz means. You're trying to pressure somebody. So it's talking about like this: you're a salesman. A person's a salesman, and he's trying to sell the product in his store. And he's selling an item from his store. Va'amar, he's like bargaining, haggling with the buyer. Va'amar, and he says, "Koinim, I make a neder, she'eni poiches l'cha min hasela." He's basically saying, I make sure that all the money you're going to give me, I'm never going to have a no unless it's a seller. 4 dinar. A seller is like 4 dinar. So unless I get my price, a seller, I'm not going to have a no from it. And sometimes, so basically he's trying to pressure the buyer to come up to his price of a seller. V'hala Omar, and let's say the purchaser says, Koinim, I make a neder that I'm not going to benefit from the item I purchase she'eni moisef lecha al hashekel. I'm not giving you one dime more than the shekel. Shekel is 2 denarim. So basically, he's offering half for the item. So therefore, so according to this, let's turn the, here we go. So um, therefore, hold on. Oh, sorry. Hold on. My apologies over here. Yeah. Oh. Ah, I am sorry, but I don't have the right thing on the screen, but I'm going to do the Gemara on the inside. Uh, hold on 1 second. If you bear with me, I'll just pull it up in a second. I pulled up the wrong document. Um, bear with me for 1 second. If not, I'll just pull up the right document. Uh, so, um, oh boy. Okay, I am. Okay, hold on. I got it. Okay. Oh. Okay, here we go. I have it on my screen. I don't know if you could see. Can you see the screen? Can you see
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry. Okay, so basically, my apologies. I didn't print out the right screen. So Shneim writes in the The din is that both of them are haggling, and one said I'm not selling it less than a shala, which is 4 dirham. The other one says I'm not giving you more than 2 dinarim. Shneim writes in If they both settle on 3 dinarim, they both do not have a nether, because the only reason why they would nether, pretending they're nethers, is because they want to get their price or as close to the price as possible. So therefore, the seller said a nether, and then buyer said a nether, but they both can settle on 3 dinarim, and their nether it doesn't need a heter. It really goes away, because we understand that when they said a nether, they weren't into it. That their heart didn't mean what they were saying. So Rabbi Abba bar Mama said to Rav Ami, Amrit la mishmein Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. You said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. The Gemara first wants to understand, why does the neder walk away? So I keep telling you the bottom line reason, but the Gemara entertains another reason why these nedarim don't count, because Mantana Abo Nedarim, who's the author of our Mishnah of the 4 neders, Rabbi Yehuda, the Amma Mishim Rabbi Tarfon. It's Rabbi Yehuda who said in the name of Rabbi Tarfon. What Rabbi Tarfon has this opinion that a neder doesn't become a neder if it's subject to a condition. For example, Rabbi Tarfon said, "La'olam ein echad mehen nazir." Not one of them is a nazir. Because nadiris, you can only become a nazir, and your statement is only validates another only if it's absolute. For example, Rav Tarfon's discussing over there. Let's say 2 guys have an argument. One guy says, "I will be a nazir if the person that just passed us was Shimon," and the other says, "I'll be a nazir if it's not Shimon." So until we verify who the person that passed in front of these 2 people, we don't know who's a Nazir. But then we discover one of them is a Nazir. So Reb Tarfon says none of them are Nazirs, even if it turns out to be Shimon or not Shimon. None of them are Nazirs. Why? Because Naziris, in order to make a Naziris, you have to be absolute right from the get-go. When it comes out of your mouth, you have to know that you're effectuating a Naziris. But if it's subject to a condition, that's not considered a vow of Naziris. And since there is a hekesh or gzeir shava between Naziris and Neder, so also Rabbi Tarfon holds any neder that is subject to a condition is not a neder. So therefore, when a guy says, "I make a neder if I accept anything lower than a sela, a 4 dinarim. So it's subject to the condition. If he accepts 4 dinarim, then he has at less than 4 dinars, then he has a neder. So anything that's subject to a condition is not called a neder. And that's the author of our Mishnah, according to the Rabbi Abba Bamamel said. So that is the author of our Mishnah. Rava says the reason I've been discussing in the Mishnah. Rava says, Afil Tema Rabban. You could say that our author of our Mishnah is Rabbanan, who hold that you could make a neder subject to a condition. The reason why over here it's not a neder is because the person that made the neder never really meant it. Miktanum shneim ratzu. Does it say that they both of them decided now that they'll settle on 3 dinarim? Shneim roitzim kintanum. They both wanted it from the very beginning. In other words, from the very, very beginning, when they made the neder, in his heart, he said he would settle if the guy gives him 3 dinarim. He's just making a neder. I'm not accepting less than 4. But in his heart, in his heart, he's definitely made up his mind that he would accept 3 dinarim. And the same goes for the purchaser. In his heart, he would pay 3 dinarim. He just wants to make the guy come down in price, so he makes a neder. Oh, I'm not giving you more than 2 dinarim. So since it's shneim roitzin, that was their real intention from the get-go. Even though they said a neder, the neder is not counted. Now, the Gemara asks a question on that. Let's say they're quite far apart from each other, or they're pretty precise to the last quarter. For example, Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Ravina asked the question to Ravashi. Amaloi, if he said Tfei Masela, if he says, I'm giving you more than a sela. In other words, my neder is a sela and a pruta. V'haloi Amar, and he says, my neder is I'm not giving you more than botzir meshekel, less than a shekel. In other words, I'm giving you 49, two and a, 1 dinar and 90% of a dinar, something like that. So each one not only didn't round off their numbers, they were precise, and they're really at a distance from each other. So in that case, it's a little bit different than our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is they seem to be close enough, and also they're rounding the numbers. It's either 4 dinarim or 2 dinarim. So, but here, each one is precise in their neder of what they're saying, a sela and change, or less than a shekel. And so he's saying, like, say 1 shekel and 1 dinar and 90% of a dinar. So basically, they are pretty in their language. It seems it's perhaps that they were careful to make a nedra. Nidra hava, is this case a nedra, or is zeruzin hava, or is it not a nedra? It's just a pressure type of nedra. Amalei. So they answered. Ravashi answered Rabina. He said, Tanina, we have a Mishnah that has a similar situation. The Mishnah says, a guy was being pressured by his friend that he should come eat dinner by him. And he said, I make a neder that I'm never entering your house. And not only that, I'm not even going to take just a cup of a cold drink from you. So then that kind of neder is not a neder. That means if he wants, he can go into the house and drink. You can go into the house, drink a cold drink. Why? Because his only intention was that he doesn't want to eat their supper, a big suda he doesn't want to eat there. He didn't have an intention to, and for that, he never really made a neder. And so he didn't have intention that he's not going to take a cup of seltzer. So therefore, he didn't really make a neder, and because of that, there is no neder, and he's permitted to drink a cup of cold water. So now the Gemara proof asks this question: Va'amai, why shouldn't he be allowed to drink Why should he be allowed to drink a cup of water? He was very precise. I'm not drinking 1 drop of water. You want me to eat supper, which is I'm not even taking a drop of water. So we're very far apart. And yet you're telling me that there is no neder. Ella, the answer is it's not a neder because people speak like that. I'm not going to take 1 drop from you. So, but he doesn't really mean he's not going to take one drop. So therefore, there is no nether over there. Also over here, even if they're precise, if the buyer and seller are really very far apart and they make nedarim, that's the way people talk, and therefore it is not considered a nether. That was Rav Ashi's answer, comparing the question to the Mishnah. Amalei. So Ravina asked again to Rav Ashi. Let's just turn the page. So Ravina asked the question. We go to Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. Mi Dami. How could you compare my question to that Mishnah? Why? Gabe tzoyne, when it comes to cold water, tzadikim oimrim ma'at oisin harba. Tzadikim, generally, if you invite somebody, you invite him, you tell him, oh, I'm going to just give you a small drink, like you see in last week's parsha, and then oisin harba, and then they give him a lot. So like Avram Avinu, he said, I'm going to just take give you bread, and then you could go beyond your way. And then they ended up giving them cows and tongues with mustard and everything. So that's the way a tzaddik answers. So therefore, when this guy wanted to refuse supper because he's being pressured by his friend for supper, he wants to make his opinion very clear. So he says, I'm not going to take a drink from you because I know that if you're going to start offering me a drink, you're going to end up giving me supper. So that's why he makes such a nether. Obviously, he's not into it. He doesn't mean that he never wants to take a drink. He just doesn't want supper. So he makes a nether in a funny way. So it's obvious that he didn't mean his nether for the drink. But hacha over here, because the drink would lead him to supper. But hacha sveikahu, without dilma pachas misal. This guy will never take. Uh, Maybe this guy says, I'm selling you to not less than a seller. V'yoser al shekakoma b'zeruzim have, and therefore it's maybe he meant not less than a seller and not more than a shekel. So they're basically pretty much close with each other. They just were giving round. They were giving coin change numbers, but they didn't mean it. Dilma dafka kamar, because they precisely indicated the amount they want to pay, not more and not less, and they went and they put the decimal by the last penny. So they were very clear on how much they want to pay and how much he wants to sell. Maybe they really mean it. The nidrahava. That case would be a neder. So the Gemara says tiboya, that will remain as an aboya. So basically, from our Mishnah, you see that there's a concept called nidre zerizim, which means that sometimes you say a neder, and it's obvious from the neder that you're just saying it to pressure the other person to do something. So to come up with his price, or you don't want to pay or come down with his price. Depends which side of the table you are. But that's nidre's reason. Sometimes, if you're precise, the Gemara doesn't know if that's a nidre's reason or a neder. New Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rabasi. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rasi, Aba Nedarim Halalu Tzricha She'ela L'Chacham. He says a fascinating thing, which is crazy. The Mishnah doesn't say so, but he said these neders, even nidre's reason, needs you have to go to a rabbi to undo the neder. Well, what could he possibly mean by that? Probably he means that maybe for an Amaretz who says such a type of neder, he should really go to a Chacham to undo his neder. Like we saw yesterday, that there's sometimes a difference between a Talmud Chacham and an Amaretz. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Ravasi. Kamrise Kamei de Shmuel, when I said this statement, this teaching in front of Shmuel, Omar, he said that's not true. Tana Tonya Aborda Doram Hetiru Chacham. These four neders, Chacham said you don't have to come to ask a shiloh. It's automatically not a neder. And you're telling me it needs a question you need to ask a chacham? Certainly not. That's not the case over here. So that it doesn't make sense. So Rav Asi Yosef Master Lola Hoshmaitze B'Hai Lishana. Rav Yosef taught the teaching in the following language. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Asi. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav Asi. This is the way it really supposed to say. Ein chacham rashoy lahate elo ke'ein abon nedavet halalu. A chacham cannot matter a neder, and here we're coming into a very important topic. For a chacham to matter a neder, according to the Rabbi Huda in the name of Rav Asi, you cannot be matter a neder only with a pesach but not with a charata. Kesavar ein poischim b'charata. You cannot uh, cannot matter a neder with just a regret. Let's explain this for a second. That there are two ways to matter a neder. One is called a pesach. Let's say I make a neder. I am not gonna I am not gonna benefit from my friend. I hate him. He did something wrong to me. He was so cold to me. I make a neder. Then I find out that he was planning a surprise birthday party for me. So then I go to the rabbi, and the rabbi will say, uh, "Would you have made this neder had you known he was trying behind you, trying to make you a surprise birthday? Would you have made such a neder?" And I would say, "Certainly not." That's called a pesach. A pesach clearly means very clear. It means that something, a part of the equation you were not aware of when you made the neder. So that is called a pesach. A charata is something else. You were aware of everything involved in the neder. You were aware of all the scenarios over here. And yet you made the neder, but you may have made the neder when you were angry and when you were in a sad mood. So therefore, that could be a regret that you made the neder, you wouldn't make it in the right state of mind. So those are the two things you have to know. There's something called a Pesach, and there's something called a Charat. Pesach is something that is a part of the equation, a part of the event that you were not aware of. So as the Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Ravasi, that the only way a Chacham can be matir a neder is only through a Pesach, not through a regret. Just like
You
these,
give him a chance to get out of it.
yeah, to give him a chance to get out of it, but it's not so simple. Not with charata. Ein toischen toichesim becharata. Nishmit with he has regrets. It's only a pesach, which means that it's so obvious that had he known about something, he wouldn't have made the neder. Just like these Nedarim in the Mishnah, they don't need a heter chacham because it's so obvious that the reason why he's making a neder is because he's trying to pressure the other person to pay a higher price. So same thing over here. It has to be a Pesach is harder to find that he wasn't aware of something, but it's easier once you find it. It's obvious that the person wouldn't have made that neder under such a situation. So Rabbi Yehuda Ra'asi says only then can a chocham be mater a neder for a person. Charata, regret. If the guy says, "Oh, I made it because I was angry or I was sad," that doesn't work. That's what Rasi says. But the Gemara disagrees with that. The Gemara is going to say, "Ahu da asay lekame Rav Huna." There was a person that came to Rav Huna, Amalei, and he said, "Libach Allah." That means that do you? In other words, he is telling Rav Huna that when I made the neder, I was super angry, and therefore this neder came from my mouth. So Rav Huna said, "Libach Allah." Do you feel the same way now? Are you in the same state of mind when you made that neder? Amalei, no. Now I'm calmed down, and you can trust me that when I made the neder, I was angry. So, but now I'm calm. The Sharia and Rabbi Huna gave him the heter that he doesn't have a neder. So Rabbi Huna argued. He holds that a charata does work. That if you just say that you were in the wrong state of mind when you made the neder, it's good enough for the rabbi to be matter. Then the Gemara says that sometimes there's others' opinions that hold that yes, you could work with a charata, but it has to be a strong type of charata. Say there was a man that came to Rabbi Baravuna. Amalei, he said, Rabbi Ravuna said, "You tell me that you were very angry. How angry were you?" Amalei. So Rabbi Baravuna said, "Let me ask you, how angry were you?" Ilu hayu asar b'nei adam sheyifasucha ba'isa shah minadar. If there were 10 people coming to calm you down at that time, would you have made the neder? Basically, Rabbi Ravuna is trying to say, if, were you so angry that you needed 10 people to calm you down? So, and probably you said, yes, at that time, I needed 10 people to calm me down because I was super, super duper angry. So, but right now, I'm not in that state of mind. I'm not where I was when I made the nether. I'm not so angry anymore. I'm not angry like that, like I was back then. The Hitirai and Rabbi Baravuna gave him the heter. So Rabbi Ravuna says it's not enough for a person to say I was angry, because everybody has different states of mind. So that's not enough of a regret. You have to be able to say that I was so super angry that it would have needed 10 people to calm me down. And therefore, it was like an unusual state of mind I was in at that time. And that's why I made the neder. But I regret making the neder. So then, according to Rabbi Bavhuna, and you could be mata the neder, but not like Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Asi, who said in the beginning of the page, "Ein poichschin b'charata." We can't undo a neder just by regret. And actually, the Gemara says, Tanya, this is the same machlokes that we had about charata. How much of a charata do you need? Is a machlokes tanoim. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda says, Oimem loy. We ask a person, Oimer loy la'adam. We ask the person, Leiv zeh olecha. Are you still in the same emotional state as you were when you made the neder? Im Omar Lav, if he says, no, I'm not in the same emotional state, I'm much more calmer, Matir and then we matter it for him. One more point. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yossi, B'Shum Aviv sends in the name of his father, Rabbi Yossi, that Oimim loy la'adam, we tell the person, Ilu hoyu asar b'nei adam shifaysucha b'yisashon mina darta. If you had 10 people to calm you down at that time, would you have made the neder? And Amalav, if he says I would not have made the neder, but in effect you're saying I was so super unusually angry that I probably would have needed 10 people to calm me down. So therefore he was not in the clear state of mind. Matir noisai, we would permit him and undo the neder. I'll just end off. Very important point. Yes, we hold that you could be mater neder with a regret. That's why if you go technically, any person who walks into the rabbi, and this is you grapple with this, that any person who walks into the rabbi can say, "Listen, I regret making the neder. I was, I don't know what I was thinking. I probably wasn't thinking clearly. I had a bad dinner. My stomach was upset. I was angry. I was depressed." Of course, the rabbi could be mater neder.
You expect from him to say, he expects him to say the best, he'll say the best.
Yeah, he'll say.
You have so that he should, to make an aid, you have to know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then don't make an aid.
That's correct.
To make an easy way to make an aid for everything.
Yes. So technically, like you're saying, if he makes a neder and he says, I wasn't thinking, then and it's done. The rabbi could be mounted the neder. But sometimes I want to say,
you tell him in this time, you tell him while you're making it, you don't believe me, I swear for it. So he will swear for it too.
yeah,
He will be another environment. He can do it.
Yeah.
So because you make him the nader easy for him.
We try to make it easy.
Make a business. If you want to make a business, you're going to make a business when you're angry. And you buy the business, then you come back, I was angry, give me back the money.
Right. That doesn't work. Only by neder is a concept. You're right. That's why the like you say, some people don't hold charata works. Ain't poichsim bekarata. But I want to say charuta doesn't work. Ain't poichsim bekarata. Some say that's what Ravasi says. But let's say somebody makes a neder.
With Ravasi.
Right. You hold like Ravasi. But let's say somebody makes a neder. And he makes a neder, like say he has to lose weight. So he says, a neder, I'm never eating cake. I'm never eating cake. Then he loses 40 pounds. And then he wants to undo the neder. And he says to the rabbi, I regret making the neder. I want to eat, I could use some cake now. And I lost my 40 pounds. Well, that's not enough of a charata. Because when he made the neder, he needed the neder in order to lose the 40 pounds. So now that he's saying, I regret making the neder, and maybe I was too hasty, that's not enough of a neder, and not enough of a charata to be mater a neder. Because B'shasi made the neder, he really wanted the neder. So that's not a charata. That's why we, Bezman Hazeh, we're not mater so much with a charata. We combine it with a noilad, with a pesach, which means if you look at the things that we say before Rosh Hashanah in the Shemonah Rabbi Sai, we are saying, had I known, basically, it's a Pesach, had I known that I would have had regrets making this neder, I would have not making this neder. So basically, you're saying there's a scenario I wasn't aware of when I made the neder. What is that? That I would have had regrets making this neder in the future. So that's a combination of regret and a Pesach, and that's how we're matin neder b'zman hazeh, to make it easy. But again,
what doesn't it make? It seems to me like what so it has to be within the context of the neder itself. For instance, I think what they're trying to say is that if there was some such sort of temporary insanity where 10 people had to hold him back, it would make sense that they have to look at what exactly did he say. For instance, I hate this house. It's falling apart. I don't want this house anymore. This house is not going to be for me. That would make sense. But say like, I want to lose 40 pounds. Nobody has to have temporary insanity to lose 40 pounds.
Right,
So
right.
it has to be within the context of the neder itself, doesn't it?
Yes. But in Shulchan Aruch, the way we paskin is that almost any neder, you'll walk into the rabbi. Unlike, let's say, I have a question in kashrus or hilchos Shabbos. So the rabbi is going to tell me sometimes it's asur, sometimes it's mutter. But if you go into a rabbi and say, I have a neder, it automatically tell you, let's matter the neder. Because Bizman Hazeh, we take the very lenient approach and say like this: had you known that you would regret this neder later on, when you made the neder, would you have, if you would have known that you're going to come to regret this neder, would you have made this neder? So it's a combination of regret with a pesach, talking about something that you didn't know when you made the neder. That we use that to combine to matter neder. Yes, this is a very unusual thing about Hilchos Nedarim. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Good night, everybody.
Well,
Sorry about
good
that.
night. What do you expect for him to say? Bad?
Yeah. No.
He will say it's good.
Yeah, Avada.
But if he meets an A, he should think it over before he's doing it.